CACCIATORE. I'm your host, Frankie Marchesini. Our guest this week is an Emmy Award-winning sports anchor and host for the Yes Network. He's a jovial Jersey gentleman, Chris Shearn.
I love that intro. Thank you, Frank. I appreciate that.
Me, man of the hour, too sweet to be sour. And as always, joining the group, the Prince of Prosciutto, the Ayatollah Capicola, Chris Vitale. Come on in, Chris. Join the party.
Hey, I'm still in the middle, so that's good. After all that shit.
Middle, huh?
All right, so you know what? Screw editing. Here we go.
Well, you know, Chris,
I'm over here now.
Yeah, one's looking that way.
well, what I wanted to say, Chris, before we start, has Vitale ever showed you my painting? Has he ever showed you?
You have it too?
Did he ever show you my painting?
Oh my God. I like it. One dog's going one way and the other's going the other way.
Yeah, one's going west and one's going east.
You two have the same freaking painting. How did I ever think that both of you wouldn't have that same exact painting?
Listen,
and I didn't buy it, and I'm the schmuck.
I'm an art connoisseur. I got the Kramer in the fucking garage too.
Well, he has a poster.
The Kramer.
He has a poster. This is an actual.
Yes.
This is a painting on canvas. So
really,
yeah. I'm
that
class? I'm old class.
Is that Mrs. Scorsese's original?
I think so. I think it was liberated from his archives.
You got to fucking big league me here, man. Thank you very much.
So now everybody knows we're talking about Goodfellas, Martin Scorsese's masterpiece. I mean, where do you begin, right? I mean,
oh my God,
that's
it came out in 1990, and I know the three of us were talking before.
Yeah,
the movies loomed so large over our lives, and was such an influential film, cinematically, culturally. You're like, how do you even what's the entry point into it? Because there's so many things to talk about.
Well, there's so many. Yeah, you're right, Frank. There's so many ways you could get into this. Think about The Godfather back in 1972. That had that that was that generation's movie, and it kind of flipped the script and changed everything, the way these movies were made, and movies were made in general. And then you have Goodfellas, and that's our baby. Okay. And then you have everything that spawned from Goodfellas. I was thinking when Chris reached out to me and said this was going to be the flick, it's weird, but the first thing that came to mind, and has nothing to do with Goodfellas itself, it's from the movie Swingers, when they're all sitting around and they're all talking about the scenes from all the different movies. And Vince Vaughn, who just has a new movie on Netflix called Nona's, by the way, about Italian grandmothers. Yes, you should go watch the trailer. It looks really good. But he's the one who says, oh, but baby, the money was the Steadicam through the Copa. And then they reenact that when they go into the Dresden. It's just it's amazing. And it's gone through so many, different movies, and it's influenced so much.
And originally they didn't want to do that. That scene that way. What happened was the Copa wouldn't allow them to go through the front door. Mm-hmm. For whatever, I don't know, fire code reason or whatever. So they figured out another way. They're like, hey, wait a minute. We could do this through the back door. And it shows Henry, the whole, it's really representative of him coming of age. He's got all the hookup and all that kind of stuff. And apparently they had to do it 8 times because Henny Youngman kept fucking up the lines.
Really? At the very end. So they got through all of that.
Yeah, they did the fucking old track.
So perfectly choreographed.
All he says is, take my wife, please.
I
he couldn't get through that.
I love this crowd.
I mean, he'd been saying that for 50 fucking years. He can't get it right. Also, I mean, the fact that he only did it 8 times, there's so many choreographed little fucking parts and moving parts to it. Everything in the kitchen, the chef guy standing there, they're carrying the food. Even the extras in the back doing it. I'm surprised it only took 8 times, and I'm even more surprised it was because Henny Youngman kept fucking it up. That's actually very surprising to me. Absolutely.
So it comes out in 1990, right? Mm-hmm. Listen to the movies that came out in September of 1990.
Just September.
Just in September.
Oh, for God's sake.
State of Grace, King of New York and Goodfellas came out in the same month because I actually went to go see State of Grace because I couldn't get into Goodfellas. Then Miller's Crossing comes out in October, and Godfather 3 comes out in December. So you have these, I mean, gigantic mob films. I mean, Miller's Crossing is unbelievable.
John Turturro was amazing.
Phenomenal.
He's always good.
I mean, within the mobster, gangster genre. I mean, these are like, I mean, they transcend the genres. I mean, and the worst of the films is Godfather 3.
Godfather 3
which is supposed to be like the big thing. And meanwhile, these, and you got to also look at it like with Scorsese. He wasn't like a mainstream. I mean, he did Raging Bull and Taxi Driver, and he did After Hours and King of Comedy and Last Temptation of Christ and Color of Money. And actually, when he was shooting Color of Money in '86, that's when he started reading the book Wise Guy by Nicholas Pileggi, which is what the film is based on. Yeah. And that's when which, by the way, that was that book came out in '85. That was my summer reading when I was in high school. That was one of my summer reading books. Was Wise Guy. I swear to God. And so anyway, he's like, we got to make this into a movie. But apparently he got the money for Last Temptation of Christ, so he did that first, and then he ended up doing Goodfellas. But this year's the 35th anniversary for the movie. Wow. And so I just was like, doing the research.
We're not getting any younger, Vitali.
Oh my God!
I do exhaustive research on these things, but I found an interesting quote from he was a movie critic for NPR. His name is Sean Burns, and this was during the 30th anniversary. I just want to read it to you because it's interesting.
Oh God,
it says,
NPR now.
It says it's not as flowery as you think. So much of Goodfellas has been absorbed into the popular culture over the past 3 decades. It's sometimes difficult to remember how radical and even dangerous it felt back then. Scorsese gleefully tears down the opulent mythology of The Godfather with a parade of numbskull mobsters meeting ugly ends. Working from mafia foot soldier Hill's confessions to reporter Nicholas Pileggi in the 1985 bestseller Wise Guy, the film depicts the workaday realities of organized crime and a documentarian's eye for detail. And the hold on, my glasses are going on. And the smear of a class clown sent to detention. So irreverent, it ends with the Sid Vicious sarcastic cover of the flatulent Sinatra anthem "My Way." I'd never seen a movie. Yeah, I've never seen a movie with such swagger. The attitude is contagious. When you watch it, you feel like you're getting away with something.
That's the first time I've heard a Sinatra song in the same sentence as flatulent.
I mean, if you're gonna call the Sid Vicious version flatulent,
well,
I could go with that because Sid Vicious.
But what I'm saying is,
I'm sure he smelled like farts. Yeah, I've seen Sid and Nancy with Gary Oldman. I've listened to a lot of Sex Pistols. I played in punk bands. I smelled like farts, and I still showered, so I can only imagine that.
The whole point of that is that because the movie has become so big, and it's really kind of got absorbed into the zeitgeist, and that you kind of lose the feeling of how different that movie was when you walked out. Do you remember, Chris? Do you remember seeing that movie for the first time?
Oh yeah, and it's 3 movies in one. You're seeing Henry grow up and how he started and how he didn't want to do the regular normal thing and he wanted to be who he was and he didn't rat on his friends. Well, then he didn't. And then you see like his coming of age, and that's meeting Karen and being the big man on campus and courting her and doing all that and pistol whipping the guy in the drive. That's probably one of my favorite scenes because who hasn't wanted to do that to someone in their life? Yeah. I will freely admit that there are still people in my life that I would love to do that to.
There's a total fantasy fulfillment about a lot of these mob yarns and stuff.
So you have that. You have him going through it's all through his eye, right? The story's being told through Henry's eye because the book is based on what he told this writer. So you're seeing this through the whole movie, but you're also seeing snippets of Jimmy. You're seeing snippets of Tommy. It's just so freaking well done. And I gotta tell you guys, I mean, and you know this, I don't have to say it, but they're so like, I'm a movie line guy. I am a walking movie line. If the SATs, if the SATs had a movie line section, I would have went to Harvard. I would have went to Yale. I would have had my choice of Ivy League colleges.
You'd be the Surgeon General.
Yes. Having said that, there were so many lines from this movie. And how many movies that we watched throughout our lives? I worked at Barnes and Noble, and I saved this for now to tell you guys. I worked at Barnes and Noble while I was in college. And I worked with these two guys, Eric and Mitch, and Jeff, three guys. And we all saw the movie around the same time. So we would run around the store, and one of us is Maury, and the other one was Tommy. And every 5 seconds,
why am I going to be Maury?
if my section was the reference section, so I'd be restacking the reference section, and Jeff would come up behind me and say, "Yeah, they got Danish. They got Danish."
You look like you look like you're decorating a fucking Christmas tree.
But if I had a dime for every time I heard like somebody was stabbing me in the back of the neck, oh my god!
With an ice pick, thank you.
Yes.
So you never shut the fuck up.
Yeah. But you know what's funny? Because the movie came out, it was such a big thing amongst me and all my friends and all that shit. And I was waiting tables at a place out on Long Island. I grew up in Queens, but I was out Long Island, and it was a huge table of guys. And this was like, I don't know, like a year after the movie came out or whatever. But you just thought it was just amongst like your friends, whatever. But I heard a bunch of these guys like giving all the lines again. I'm like, oh, they like Goodfellas too. It's just nuts how it started. It started on the East Coast, no doubt.
Yeah,
like in terms of just what it impacted me, because it's like a whole movie. It's a mob whole movie. But
and you could go visit the locations too.
Yeah, I grew up in there. I grew up right over there. Like a lot of those areas, the airline diner. Where
I just saw that on TikTok.
That's right.
Somebody
that's
really?
That's right up the Grand Central Parkway before you get over the Triborough Bridge. Like that's Astoria, I guess, but that's right on like the service road there. The airline diner and all. It's just, it was all, because that's where I grew up, right near Citi Field and in between LaGuardia and Kennedy, which they used to rob like crazy.
Yeah, Lufthansa. Hello.
But
Jimmy.
It's another. Because like Nicholas
in the shower.
I have Tourette's when it comes to this stuff. I apologize.
But Pileggi, who wrote the book, he also wrote Casino. But he was married to Nora Ephron, who was a big screenwriter.
Really?
Yeah, and like she wrote Silkwood and When Harry Met Sally, and she wrote My Blue Heaven, which came out in 1990.
Did she really?
Yes. So, like, can you imagine? Like, we got 2 movies about guys in the witness protection program.
It's
Barney Cooper Smith. Barney Cooper Smith, inventor of the rotary engine.
Have a nice day. Fuck you.
I just want one of those little bottles of wine. I don't want to drink too much. Just give me a little.
Hold on. You shouldn't be shopping in the frozen food section because you could melt all this stuff.
Oh god! Oh my god!
Why didn't that win an Academy Award?
Steve Martin, man, that's another show.
That was one of Moranis's last movies too. Unfortunately,
I know. I think that was before I Shrunk the Kids.
Yeah, I think that was right before.
I don't count those. I mean, I count. I count Strange Brew.
Oh, and, I just watched it. I bought it for $3.
You got it.
And then I watched it. I was like, why did I like this as a kid?
Oh, it's a terrible movie, but it's one of my favorites. I get a piece so bad I can taste it. It's just some of the dumbest shit
ever.
Ever. It's the pinnacle of Canadian cinema. Yes. Quite possibly.
Yeah, Frank. Sorry.
Sorry. We hijacked that shit like a fucking
No,
fucking
it's
cigarettes.
cinema cacciatore. It's whatever you catch, you throw into the fucking bowl and you cook.
Well, hey, all right, look, I
I
have a
like
question.
Frank.
I knew you would.
Me
I knew
too.
you would.
Just make sure you slice the garlic real thin.
Well,
Oh,
you know
fuck
what though?
you. No,
You know what
no,
though?
no.
He was
Really?
trying
We're
to
gonna
slice
do
the
this
garlic
now?
real thin, and,
Are we
and he
gonna
chopped
fucking
his
do this
finger off.
now? Really? We're gonna do this
Let me
now?
see. Let me see. Show. Let me see.
Well, I mean, look, right now it's like
Yeah. And you know what? You know what's the great thing about it is?
it's gone.
Well, yeah, I know
Look,
it liquefied in the oil. You know what I mean?
I thought my dog was gonna eat it. No, so you know what? Yes, he's slicing the thing with the fucking garlic in it. So I was using a mandolin to slice some red onions because I've always done that because when you use raw red onions, it's a breath thing.
Yeah.
And if the thinner you slice them, you get the flavor of it. Your breath doesn't fucking stink. I don't know why I cared. I was watching the damn Yankee game, like who's gonna give a shit? So I'm doing it anyway.
Blame the fucking Yankees for chopping.
I do. It was fucking Cody Bellinger. It was Cody Bellinger. He hit a game-tying home run, which they were getting no hit into the seventh, and to that point, and I got the game on, and I'm using the mandolin, cutting a nice onion, and all of a sudden he hits it. I look up at the next onion thing. And it's the tip of my finger was on the friggin' cutting board. I'm running around. There's blood everywhere. The dogs are following me because they're like, "Ooh, now maybe we can eat him now." Finally, this asshole. So I finally wrapped it up. I know. And so then I'm like, "Oh God, what if the dogs eat the?" Then I'm like, "What if it's in the onions?" It wasn't, so I was able to use the onions, but it was on the other side of the cutting board. My little fucking fingertip was sitting there. So let me tell you something. I don't give a shit if I slice anything thin ever again in my life and the worst part is I just started playing bass in bands again. And you know what the funny thing is of why I can't rehearse tomorrow? Because I cut the tip of my fucking finger off. So, ladies and gentlemen,
look at me. I'm a little upset. I'm heartbroken over the whole
anyway,
thing.
sorry.
That story's got me all fucking heartbroken.
I can tell. Hey, you know what?
You know what this is?
Fuck you. Fuck you.
You know what this
Hold on.
is?
Hold on.
you.
Frank, if we're ever in jail together and we get the shipment of food, he's not anywhere near the garlic.
Good. Let me do the meatballs and the sauce and
not too many onions.
All right. Are you gonna do it?
So to preface this, they're in jail and they're living a life in jail. It's nice. There's like none of their friggin' wives are around. They could just relax, play cards, drink wine, and they're just cooking.
Well,
they're getting steaks brought in.
Yeah, I think the guy's name is Vinny.
Karen's bringing loaves of bread that she's beating the shit out of Henry. Yeah, a little bit.
Well, they were paying the gods off.
Well, but I mean, all of a sudden she busts a whole friggin' salami out of the damn coat. Have her bring this in, and, Karen.
Is there any super cut of how many times he says Karen in that movie?
Karen.
What could I do?
Karen.
So they shoot this movie in '89, right?
Right.
And then Warner Brothers does some test screenings for it, and apparently like 40 people walked out of the first
Really?
screening because the end of it bugged them out. Like, yeah, this is like Scorsese, like he was really, let's say he's fucking with people. That movie, if you really watch it, and we've watched it hundreds of times. I watched it last night for probably the 300th time at least. And the movie, because he edits it like, it opens up, you're in the middle of the movie, like, during the credits, and you're in the middle of the movie. And but that movie is constantly moving, editing, the people, there's action going on, and he's slowing scenes down, pausing stuff, and the use of the voiceover, and if voiceover is like really done well, like, because I remember I worked on a show called Dexter for like 8 years, and they did a voiceover thing in it. And what it does is if it's
A
done
show
well,
called Dexter? Like, we don't,
it
we've
it
humble
really
brag.
well, dude, I don't give a fuck. I never even watched the fucking thing. Whatever. I worked on it. But they use the voiceover well, and Goodfellas obviously does it, brings it to a high art because it immediately it brings the audience in. You feel, and
Yeah.
I was reading like when Ray Liotta was doing the voiceover, they actually had someone in the audio studio, so he was reading it to the person, and it sounds like that. It's what I mean. It sounds like
Conversational.
sounds like he's talking to you, so you immediately feel like you're in. That's why it has a whole movie feel to it. You immediately
Yeah.
feel like you're
That,
in the
you
thing.
know,
That's why, like when Tommy gets killed, you feel sad, and
Oh,
meanwhile,
yeah.
Tommy's a scumbag.
yeah.
I mean, he's a
He's
fucking
a total
horrible,
scumbag.
horrible, horrible human being.
The narration, if you have, it's not like you could have forensic files like that guy doing it.
No, yeah.
It brings you in. It's kind of like breaking the fourth wall, and you have
Yeah.
Ray Liotta is like out there in the audience with you, guiding you through the movie. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's very similar, and because I had a similar, there was two movies I can remember watching growing up in that time period that it really throughout my whole life where they hit me like so emotionally and just intellectually, like where I was just kind of blown away walking out of the theater. One was Platoon, and the other one was Goodfellas. And Platoon uses a voiceover where he's reading the letters back to his mom. So it takes you you feel like you're part of the platoon.
Right.
You feel like you're part of the crew. And that these guys, and the way the almost documentarian. It's like a home movie in a lot of ways, and especially if you're people from the East Coast of our age, just how they look, how they talk, it's so authentic. But even people who aren't from there, the fact that it's so authentic, they're going to get something from it because it seems real. You know what I mean? It seems real. That's why by the end of it, when you have that whole basically. I call it a chase scene, him with the helicopter.
With the music. Oh my god! And Scorsese's always been great with the soundtrack too,
Yes.
but he used the shit out of music to really get that. To really nail that.
Well, during the production, they were saying he was using a lot of the music in playback as they were shooting it, the Layla crescendo.
Yeah.
When they find Johnny
Frankie Carbone.
So when they were shooting that, they had that music playing as they were shooting it. He had that all in his head. He had storyboarded out the whole thing.
Yeah.
He knew exactly where he was going to go with it all. During rehearsals, they had them rehearse the original script, but the famous, how am I funny scene, that was kind of an ad lib, and that was from a real story from Joe. That was a real story from Joe Pesci.
That doesn't surprise me.
No.
He was a waiter in Jersey when he was younger, and he
Yes,
said
he
something
was.
to him. Mom said that he was funny, and it was and look, and there we go. Wait, no, wait.
What the hell was that? That was I got to cut that. There you go.
That's my screensaver. I mean, and there's so much humor in it, and
there is. There are weird kind of inside jokes in it too, especially between Pesci and Frank Vincent. When I was a little kid in Bella, New Jersey, I used to go get my hair cut at Joe's Barbershop, and it was it was great because I could be I think I started going there from when I was 3 to I was a 16-year-old kid before I got hippie and whatever. And it was great. I could be 10 years old, read the Playboys in there. But there was a fucking 8x10, black and white 8x10 sign to Joe, the best haircuts in freaking, whatever. And it was Vincent and Pesci, who were a musical comedy duo in the 70s, early 80s. And they had, they had the big mustaches and those zoot suits and those leisure suits, the whole deal. And so Pesci was always around. I mean, he was the grand marshal of the fucking Belleville, New Jersey Columbus Day parade when I was a kid. I mean, so you'd see him around, but it was so like that. Like when I say inside jokes, it was very like between him and Frank Vincent during the Billy Bats scene. That was like that dynamic between them was like it was just so good because they had been working with each
Yes.
other
well,
for
but if
20 something years.
yeah, but if
you
you
know?
remember, Pesci beat the shit out of him in Raging
Oh, yeah.
Bull. They were both working in a restaurant in Jersey, whatever, and they
Yeah.
did a small gangster film in like the late 70s or something that Scorsese saw, and that's how
Yeah.
he cast Pesci in Raging Bull, and he brought Frank Vincent in, whatever.
Yeah.
So in Raging Bull and in Goodfellas, Pesci beats the shit out of him in both fucking movies.
Which is
kills
weird,
him in one.
I've met Frank Vincent.
Frank Vincent got his
guy.
revenge in Casino.
This is true.
He did.
You know
he
what?
Did. He did.
You know what? You're right.
He did, but then got his melon smashed in The Sopranos.
Yeah, so he's 1 and 3.
and Goodfellas was a complete like starter set, for The Sopranos. You had Lorraine Bracco, Michael Imperioli, Tony
Spider.
Sirico. Yeah. Tony Sirico was in it.
Yeah, in the very beginning.
Cannot see kid, and Big Pussy was in it. He has a.
I don't remember that. You said
He's
that
the
before.
guy with Henry bringing in the suits.
Yep.
I don't remember that part.
Yeah,
and I just watched it. I didn't recognize him.
There's a lot of Sopranos
you know what?
actors in that movie.
All right, okay. You know what? You know what we haven't talked about aside from me cutting my fucking finger off was food. So let's get a little into and here's a big point of contention that I tried to bring up before, and then all of a sudden we did 20 more minutes of show. Because that's how we do. The scene with the painting at Ma's house.
When they think they've killed Billy Bats and they have him in the back of the car and he's got to go back.
The paw.
The paw. And
that's Martin Scorsese's mother, Catherine. Yeah. It's a sin. You can't leave it there.
Yeah. It's a sin. We can't do that. Yeah. De Niro just.
And that's Scorsese's mother, Catherine, right? Who plays the mother, who's in all of his movies.
Yeah.
And he told her.
She was in Mean Streets even, yeah.
He told her, just no script, just act. These guys are coming here.
Yeah, these improvisation. Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. So anyway, okay. So we've sat there. For my entire life, I thought they were eating pasta, and I thought that Jimmy is sitting there doing this. There you go. There it is.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, ladies and gentlemen. By the way, that's Ball Night's Green Monster hot sauce.
Yes, and it's tremendous.
Inquire within. Anyway, product placement, but it's my fucking product, so who cares? No, so I thought they were all eating pasta. Now, Frank, I spoke to you this morning. You're telling me it's peppers and eggs, and I'm like, that makes more sense because it all looks like eggs. Then Shearn, you send me some AI thing, and that's telling me that Jimmy's doing this to potatoes and eggs.
Yeah.
And the other guys are eating pasta. Let's put this fucking controversy to bed. What the hell was going on at that table?
Well,
aside from the,
Well, here's the thing. I've been in those scenarios where I've come home, I came home late night, and my mother was like, "Oh, let me cook with you," whatever, and she opened up the refrigerator, whatever. It was usually, she'd make bacon and eggs or whatever, But because I looked, I'm always like, what are they eating? I'm like, it's got to be breakfast. But Henry looks like it's kind of a pasta thing. I don't know. But through that AI thing you showed, it broke down kind of like what they were eating. It said Jimmy was eating.
So I'm going to let him go.
Jimmy was eating potatoes and eggs, and it said possibly peppers.
Yeah, it looked like though. I tried to zoom in on the plates. It definitely looked like De Niro had eggs on his plate.
Yes.
And then when Pesci put a fork full of food in his mouth, it looked like they were scrambled eggs. It didn't look like pasta.
Yeah, yes. I don't see how it's pasta.
There was no sauce.
Exactly. It was just that's what freaked me out. I was like, how are these guys eating pasta with no sauce?
Exactly.
But if it's eggs, it makes more sense. Now, isn't your pepper and egg game apparently through the roof? Because I believe you told me this before.
Who, me?
Yeah, you.
Oh yeah, I make them for my wife. I make them for my father-in-law. It's it's a
what do you do?
Time-honored tradition.
Let's talk food.
Okay. Green peppers, it's not that hard. Green peppers, I sweat them. I grate sharp provolone in.
Hey,
And then the eggs go in and they just scramble around the
That's it.
sweated peppers. That's
You
it.
don't,
And
you don't put a little onion in there?
no, my wife hates onion. I would. I'd put a nice
Well,
ripe
you make
Vidalia
two,
in
you,
there.
you get 2 frying pans. You get
Ah.
2, yeah.
But
yeah,
I
still,
make
you could.
I make homemade bread, and I get the homemade bread, and my wife
Yeah.
gets her bullshit gluten-free stuff. So there you go.
You tell me if you want me to cut that.
Well,
If
you know,
not, Jackie, I'm sorry.
I wanted to
She
find
knows
out,
it's bullshit.
I wanted to find out about peppers and eggs, like, because it's like,
Yeah.
it's a staple dish. But
Well-
it's basically, from looking at the origin of it, it came from Chicago. Like a lot of Italian immigrants,
Really?
yeah, a lot of Italian immigrants in Chicago used to make it, but it really got popularized in the mid '60s after the Vatican. They numbed down their, they tamped down, when you could eat meat during Lent.
Damn, Frank.
Yeah,
How about
dude,
that
that's
research,
what I did.
man?
Oh, bro, exhausted.
God.
Look at me.
We got a new
Tired of it.
we got a new pope. I think he's eating peppers and eggs right now.
Hey, this is
Oh,
what
yeah,
people
he
want
is.
to. This is what people want to tune in. They want to know about this stuff.
He's from Chicago. See how it all comes together?
Yeah,
Smart.
I guarantee you get but I've been to. Here's the thing too. I've been to Chicago, like joints where they got the Italian beef sandwiches, the Portellos and all that. But
That's my man.
they'll sell the peppers and egg sandwiches. You don't find a lot of places that sell peppers and egg sandwiches.
No,
You just
see,
don't.
Here, you want to talk food? Here you go. This is where I learned most of my stuff is from my grandmother, my mom's mom, who
course.
was completely Italian. She came from Santa Maria of Vico. It's a small village to the east of Naples. And she told me she was the only one who didn't get sick on her boat ride over here when she was 12. It was a 2-week boat ride, and it was the first time she ate a sandwich with meat in between the bread. When she lived in Italy, all they had was onions. She had onion sandwiches. So-
Rock soup.
yeah. So
Yeah.
dirt poor. So when she came here, that's the first time she experienced a sandwich with meat in between the bread. But she used to make. I used to play hooky from school a lot, and I was the pudgy one of my. I was the pudgy one of my friends because my grandmother would always make this shit for my grandfather, and I would watch. So she, back in the day, you didn't wash the pan. You kept that flavor in the pan.
Flavor, yeah.
It's the funk.
What are you doing with a sponge? You get that sponge the hell out of here.
It's fine.
She made him the peppers and eggs. She would make him eggs in purgatory, which
That's nice.
which I make as well,
It's a
which
nice
is
dish.
phenomenal.
What's that?
Red sauce. You make
It's
it
like
with
a
sauce.
tomato-based. I mean,
Well,
I
that's
make
I
mine
put.
spicy. I don't know
Well,
about
that's
you.
right. I put the hard-boiled
red
eggs in
pepper
the
flake.
sauce.
Yeah.
I put the
Yeah,
hard-boiled
yeah.
eggs in the sauce.
Well, we make our.
Oh
here,
yeah,
Give me 1 second.
All right, hold on. Yeah,
Another
okay.
prop. We bottle our own sauce.
Oh, wow, you jar it all up nice.
Yeah,
Oh,
every August we get about 400 of these bad boys.
Oh,
So-
where do you get the tomatoes? You grow the tomatoes?
Hunts Point.
Hunts Point.
Oh.
In Brooklyn.
Oh, it's the best thing. Hookers and tomatoes.
I got a guy. Yeah, he sends
What?
he sends the truck right to my
Everything.
aunt's house. Yeah, he sends the truck right to my aunt's house, and I think this year we got 20 bushels, 55 pounds.
Do you have a day where you do the crush? You
Yeah,
crush 'em?
they usually deliver them on Thursday. My mom and my aunt, who really can't do it anymore because they're getting up there in age, but they usually cut them and mush them. Then they sit overnight in clean garbage cans. They're clean. And then the next day they go
Irish. That's the Irish side right there.
they go into the pot. No, that was my no. We needed big cylinders, dude. We had 20, 55-pound pallets of this shit. Anyway, they boil, then they run them through the machine, then we cook them, and then we bottle them. So anyway, this
Wait. We're still talking about the tomatoes and not the hookers, right?
no, oh god, no, not the hookers.
Okay, just checking.
So I'll make eggs. I'll make scrambled eggs with mozzarella. I'll have some sauce ready on the side. When the eggs are done, I just ladle some sauce over them, and then I put some red pepper flake on top. I fold it over. I throw it on a plate, and away you go.
That's the ticket.
Yeah,
That's the ticket.
Can I tell you something?
And the homemade bread sops up all the sauce.
Yeah.
I was going to say, how do you make your homemade bread?
That's my grandmother. It's a 5-pound bag of flour. It's
semolina, or are you doing
bread flour?
Like,
Bread flour. And I use the measurements my grandmother used. That's, when you're measuring stuff out, there's a little angel that tugs and says, "That's enough, child."
Yeah, exactly.
There are no measurements in Italian cooking.
Yeah,
None.
yeah.
None.
You
So-
eyeball everything.
Yeah, it's a 5-pound bag of flour. It's 3/4 cup of oil. It's like a little less than a
Ish.
handful of salt,
Yeah.
and it's 5 pounds of flour. So it's 2 packets of yeast, which is 4.5 teaspoons of yeast.
Question: do you throw the yeast right in, or do you bloom the yeast?
I
and do all that shit?
I used to bloom it. Now I have the instant stuff. It's called SAF, the safe
Yeah.
yeast.
Yeah.
I just throw that right in. I make sure I mix everything up before I put the oil and the water in. It's 10 cups of water, 3/4 cups of oil. I mix it all up. I knead it by hand for 10 minutes because that's what my grandmother did.
Yeah.
It rises twice. One rise, you could use it for pizza.
Oh, and
and
then
the
you punch it down.
Yeah,
and then you
the
let it rise
second
again. And then
the
it's bread.
second rise, then you cut it, you form it, you put it into your pans, you let it rise again. It's a long process.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
if you have a nice hot day, it goes really fast and it comes up, and then you throw it in the oven at 400 for 40 minutes.
Throw it in the oven.
400 for 40 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Really?
And
See,
it comes, it gets nice and
I
I'm gonna
gotta try it.
I'm starting a cooking channel on YouTube and TikTok. It's gonna be out there this summer.
Hey.
So
Well, I mean, it could be a spin-off of Cinema Cacciatore.
Hey, exactly.
You know, kind
This
of
is what
like
I'm saying.
kind of like Joni Loves Chachi and the Happy Days.
if
you
you
know?
guys want to help,
But
the next time you come to New Jersey, you're having peppers and eggs.
Moonstruck, there's a scene where they're Olivia Dukakis is making breakfast, and she puts a piece of Italian bread down with a hole in it, and she cracks an egg.
Oh, like the fryer
On top of
hole
it.
type
Yeah,
thing
yeah.
with the Italian version.
Yeah, it's kind of like an Italian like French toast kind of a thing.
Yeah.
And she puts a couple peppers on top of it, and it's a close up of it. Norman Jewison, that's a great movie, good Italian movie. But yeah, you see her like flip the fucking thing, and
That's a good idea. I'm gonna try that actually.
Yeah.
It does sound good. It's
watch
like an Italian
Moonstruck.
toad
There's
in the
a whole
hole.
scene in it,
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly,
Wow.
exactly.
All right.
Are you all right?
Me? Yes. Look, I'm gonna say, and by the way, just in case, say this episode is brought to you by the shit that I put in my hair, Vitalis.
Oh, Vitalis, please. I use that as well.
I really? I don't want to ask on what, but that's okay.
You know, I have to say, don't use it because you're gonna fucking be a bald-headed prick like
All
me.
right, well then I'm throwing it
got
out.
it.
because it-
Me
it's a
and
guy-
Chris gonna put our two heads together, make an ass out of ourselves.
There- we
Yeah,
can.
yeah,
Wait, this way.
yeah, I know that. What that way.
There you go. Look.
This way.
Hey, God bless Chris. You have a full head of hair.
Yeah, it's like somebody we know. Look at
Yeah.
that nice head of white hair.
Typical.